Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist,
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
and we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have A Month of Rain. So, A Month of Rain is by Havoc98 on creepypasta.wiki, and let's dive into the rundown, I suppose. So Nair decides to share this creepy experience from their past when the town they lived in as a young kid was rained on and flooded for a month. People began disappearing, and the kids, Nair and his friends who slept over and the like, seemed to hear scratching and whispers from outside their windows. They even saw disturbances in the water, like weird patterns or like there was something in the water. The water rose high, like waist high or more, yet it took a month for the town to fully evacuate. During that time, Nair's dad, a police officer from town, was very stressed as they believed someone was taking the people right out of their homes without breaking in, some kind of madman. There was an incident where Nair saw through his window his neighbors and friend Dalton simply leave their home and go into the woods. But Nair assumed that they were just leaving early, like evacuating early themselves. But they were never seen again. When the evacuation finally did happen, those left in the town trudged through the water to higher ground beyond the woods that surround the town. His dad and a squad of police split off from the group as they had discovered the location where the madman had been keeping the children that had been going missing. So then Nair and their friend Finney were following their mothers when the moms went to help some other people, and the two fell, and Nair and Finney fell in the water, or tripped in the water, they thought, and got caught on something and began to panic. Nair's mom picked him up, but Vinny was never found and went missing in the water. They thought it was some kind of a sinkhole that they'd fallen into, but Finney nor anyone else who'd been missing, or even Nair's dad and his squad of police officers, were ever found to this day. The other thing is that when Nair looked at their ankle, there was like a hand-like print or mark from where something had been tugging at him and dragging him in the water. To this day, Nair believes that there was something else in the water, and that is basically the story. So, did I do it?
Yes.
Cool. Gamer, are you still with us?
At least in spirit.
Okay, that's all we can hope for. I missed you guys. We're still in quarantine, guys, as of this recording. All right, well, I guess we'll go on to everyone tolerates the Grandma Inquisitions at this point. So, here is my first of my Grandma Inquisitions. It rained that whole month nonstop, and it was kind of strange since the rain came in unannounced by meteorologists. It was almost similar to that of a hurricane, with strong winds, thunder, lightning, and lengthy periods of rain. It almost came out of nowhere. It just started pouring. So this first section of the story, just this paragraph and a little bit, and a few other parts of this beginning page, essentially, of the story, it felt a little repetitive. Like this rainstorm, it came out of nowhere and came unannounced, and then it immediately followed that up with it came out of nowhere. It's like we already knew it came out of nowhere.
And it's the fact that it's like it was almost similar to blah 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 blah. It almost came out of nowhere. Blah blah blah
yeah.
blah.
Yeah,
so doubled up on almost as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it tripled down on it.
Oh no.
And I have a note on that section where basically I didn't know if to put this in grammar or notes, but essentially it's doubling down on it's almost like a double negative, or it's saying like the same adjective twice, because it's basically it's saying it was almost similar to that of a hurricane is like it's saying it was like a hurricane.
Yeah, it's kind of something that people do by accident when they're writing is they pad out with basically the ums and uhs of writing, like in like uncertainties. Like they use words that like show like kind of an uncertainty, whereas like you need to kind of, you should put a little bit more definite or like finite oomph into your writing.
Uncertainty is okay, but when they're uncertain about their uncertainty,
yeah, exactly,
it's almost similar. So there's a hurricane, and then there's similar to a hurricane, then there's almost similar to a hurricane. So it's not even similar to a hurricane.
Yeah, it's just like they're like I said, like it's like they're uhs. So,
yeah.
Mikey, do you have anything else to say for this?
No, but would you like to finish my It story for me?
I don't have it on me. I don't have the full like thing. So, was that your only? Was that the part of your It story?
Well, there's 4 more It sentences, but you got 3 of them.
Well, that's a good segue. So, and now an It story with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Continue it away.
Do you want me to just start from the beginning?
Sure.
Yeah.
It rained that whole month, non-stop, and it was kind of strange since the rain came in unannounced by meteorologists. It was almost similar to that of a hurricane, with strong winds, thunder, lightning, and lengthy periods of rain. It almost came out of nowhere. It just started pouring. It struck somewhere within the woods, and then things got weird. It never emerged from the water to show us its identity or what it was. It was true. It was...
It was true. Oh God, truth! It's what's been the horror all along. Anyway, sorry.
Truth will kill us all.
Yep.
It was drizzling a bit as they left, and the rain was beginning to die down. And that's
Ew. It was. It does kind of like that narrative does kind of give it like, I mean, yeah, the first one, like it rained. It's like, okay, yeah, like yeah, it has to be there because like what, like I guess you could put like the storm rained over the whole month, but like, but yeah, the other one's like
kind of was the hurricane, honestly.
Yeah.
So like the hurricane was underwater and everything.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, like there's some parts like I remember like wasn't like they mentioned the lightning that hits the forest, but they made that a separate sentence. Yeah, there's a bit of a narrative there that you've made. It's like where this thing like just drenched this town, then like fell into the woods, and now it was in the water, and it was truth. And it got kind of mucusy by the end.
This truth tends to.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Well, continuing with my grammar inquisitions. Other conversations went on, but nothing too relevant to what was happening at all, or at the time. And they eventually went to bed. I feel like you need to get rid of that first 2 in front of the relevant. Like, other conversations went on, but nothing relevant to what was happening at the time. Or use
the other relevant, so there was stuff that was partially relevant.
Yeah, or use the other word of like the other 2, like I guess TOO, so that it's like it gives it like it's not like 2 as in to do something. It's 2 as in it's too much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, either get rid of it or add an extra O. And my next one here. I didn't see my dad or Finney at the evacuation area. Come to think of it, I never saw my dad or his squad again. So, for this section, I feel like come to think of it should not be there because I'm sorry, that's just a way too casual for the loss of a parent.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like,
my dad.
Come to think of it, I never saw Dad again. He just
That's like
went
the
on.
end
He
of
just
a
went to the
punchline.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he said he was going to the corner store to pick up some milk. Come to think of it, that was 5 weeks. That was 5 years ago. Like, yeah, it's like, no, I'm sorry, no. that come to think of it needs to be gone because you could easily like it could be gone and it would have a much stronger like beat or impact on the writing. And that is actually the end of my my grammar inquisitions. So, Mikey, do you have anything extra?
No, I do not.
All right, gamer.
Cool. Here's my first one. Must have been about 7 at the time, and I can somewhat remember the event clearly, even if most of it is pretty hard to recall. So I find that kind of contradictive a lot. I can kind of remember it clearly, but most of it is hard to remember.
I can kind of clearly see, or I can kind of see. I don't know. Like I was trying to do that like clearly. Now the rain is gone, but yeah, fuck it. Yeah, no, it's
no.
That's,
don't worry, you nailed it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's good. Just edit that whole chunk out. Thanks.
No, leave it out.
Fuck you. Yeah, it's like really like it's like I sort of definitely saw this.
Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
We know the truth behind supernatural things. The truth is definitely maybe. Like,
totally.
Oh God, thank you, Invader Zim.
Is that what that's from?
Yeah, it's like there's like a commercial for like some like unexplained mysteries like TV show that Dib is watching, and it's like we know with 100% certainty that the answer is definitely maybe.
I didn't know it was from that. I've just been hearing you reference that for years.
Oh yeah. I've been referencing since I saw it. So like high school,
pretty much. But yeah. The way I rewrote that is I must have been about 7 at the time, but of the little I can remember, I remember well. So he doesn't remember much, but what he remembers clearly. I believe is what they're trying to get across.
Yeah. But the way they wrote it, it's like again, definitely maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. And then this next part. Since all you guys are looking for a good spook, I'll give it a shot and tell you the tale. So in my childhood town, I had a good friend named Finney. Then new paragraph starts. Finney and I were really close, blah, 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 blah. I feel like that's a bad layout for the spacing of the paragraphs. Because the first thing is all intro, but the last sentence of it is, in my childhood town, I had a good friend named Finney. Like, the start of the story happens in the intro.
Yeah, like he was trying to do a segue, it sounded like, but
yeah,
it really could have ended with him. It's pretty hard to recall, kind of thing, and then since you guys are looking for a good spook, I'll give you a shot and tell you a tale. That's where you should end that paragraph, and then so in my childhood, blah blah blah. That's the next like start of a paragraph.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say repeatedly while you were cutting me off. So
I apologize. Even without the lag, I wouldn't be. I'm sorry.
It's fine. You just saved me from having to say it. That's fine.
I'm just gonna mute myself.
No, that just hammers home. It's like, yeah, okay, I was in the right on that. That's fine. Someone else agreed with me. That's fine.
Not that I was taking your spotlight at all by accident.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit. That's fine. This next part. Houses were found empty in the morning, and sometimes some kids would be left behind, too traumatized to speak, and alone in the house with "quote unquote" again, no signs of forced entry. I find the quotations odd there. Like the word "again" is quotation. I don't know why. I feel like it should be commaed out. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Wow. I was waiting for a response. Hello?
Can you repeat it again?
Did you just like mute the incoming audio too?
No, I was like really focused on like muting.
Wow. Houses were found empty in the morning, and sometimes some kids, there's the double sum again, would be would be left behind, too traumatized to speak and alone in the house with quote unquote again no signs of forced entry. I don't know why that's quotation.
Yeah, it doesn't need quotes.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, you're in the right.
Yeah, it should just be like comment out, basically.
Yes.
Of commas. They both talked for a while as we paused awaiting others to join us. I feel like there should be a comma after paused. So it's not like we paused awaiting. We paused awaiting others to join us.
Yeah, there definitely should be a comma, yeah.
And that's it for my grammar-related discrepancies.
Yes. All right. Well, then moving on to actual thoughts. I'm actually going to start with the image, because there is an image that accompanies this story, but like basically like right after that first paragraph. And it shows basically I guess a girl or a woman silhouetted by a light in the background as rain is like just coming down in like curtains. And they're putting their hand out in to like touch it and stuff. And there's a little like descriptor at the bottom underneath it saying the rain is calling ... It's fairly appropriate and at least thematic, without giving anything too much away. Like even the descriptor below it doesn't give a whole lot away, while also kind of giving you a little bit of an intriguing like hint as to what's happening in the story. That said, was the rain calling people, or was it something in the water that had already come down, and like it was something in the water, in that rising rainwater that was calling people?
Yeah, but it's there. It and the rain are there, like
as a result of
the huge rain is there because the monster's there.
Yeah, because there's like weird colors in the sky, like weird lights in the sky, which I totally forgot from the rundown. Yeah, like there's like weird like multicolored lights that people see at night in the sky, and they like change depending on the night.
So that was multicolored lightning.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, then there might be some discrepancies in the spelling then, because I remember reading it and like some of the whenever they were bringing it up, it was like multicolored lighting, not lightning.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm wondering if like that might have been a typo on their part, where like some of those lighting words were actually supposed to be lightning.
Yeah,
but there is light coming from lightning as well.
Yeah, because there's light coming from lightning. Wait, is there color coming from the lightning, or is it from the lighting? Because I could have sworn I read that I read lightning or lighting, and I even looked it over again like afterward just to make sure.
Yeah, the lighting had strange colors.
Yeah, so
the lighting is from lightning.
Or is it? Because I actually have an actual thought on that.
I remember this one night when it was thundering. I was looking outside the window. I noticed the lighting.
The lighting had a strange color.
It's right after saying thundering, though.
Yeah, so, you're right. Yeah, it could be that. So, but like when I read that, and like with the some would look orange, others would look green, and some would even be purple. Reading that, my go-to was aliens. They're just dumping a month's worth of a month-long deluge over this town.
No, there's a wizard out there having a battle.
Yes, clearly.
Of lightning.
Yes. So it could be wizards or aliens or other things.
Well, I attribute it to cultists.
Oh yeah.
So the cultists did some rain dances to bring the rain, and then they're trying to get their spell right to summon something, and they keep getting it wrong, and that's why we get the different colors. And then later, the lights continued in the sky every night until eventually there was the loudest thunder strike. So eventually they get it right.
Yep. Also, did somebody just like tap on somebody's window?
No, that was Mikey getting attacked, I believe.
Oh, okay.
You're not in airplane mode for this? How dare you?
Yeah. It could be like that. Maybe they accidentally summoned a color out of space. And then they had to like use the banishing of Azathoth to take out the color, and that's where we got the giant like lightning blast, which then mutated the cultist into some kind of spawn of Azathoth, and now those are the things that are in the water crawling around.
Seems legit.
Surprisingly,
see that happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And moving on to my next one here. This is where I kind of pick apart the water emergency. So here's the quote. Eventually the water had gotten so high that it reached up to our ankles. And so this first part, I'm like, I wonder if explaining the general geography of the town might add something to the story, like visually, like just to add the direness of the rainfall, such as like if the town was in the low end of a valley or like on the embankment of some river or like water, because it does mention like rivers and lake or like ponds and stuff rising, but like we never get like any kind of like concrete like descriptor of the town. It's just the outside of the town being surrounded by forest. And oh god, we're in that one story that we read a couple of weeks ago about the biblical one. Fuck, what the hell was that one called? It was the one with the dude like and his girlfriend went missing.
Could be a million.
Hang on, I'll pull it up. I got deleted software. It was deleted software. Yeah, I was like, oh god, suddenly we're in deleted software because the town is surrounded by forests. But that joke aside, yeah, I feel like there should be like I kind of wanted a little bit more like I feel like a little bit more descriptor of like the elevation of the land and stuff like that might have like helped improve the direness of the situation they're in.
Maybe this town is on the top of a fucking mountain, and the entire world is being flooded.
Oh god! So it's Wind Waker.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where all the islands are really just the mountaintops of Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, surprisingly possible.
Yeah, and I can agree because I mean, an ankle description doesn't really give you much because a puddle can reach your ankle after a few hours of heavy rain.
Yeah. However, then we get this part. The water rose up to our waists, and eventually school was called off on occasion. Wow. Yeah, that's an emergency. Pretty sure school's out for ever. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, not sorry, Alice Cooper fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then like continuing that on that train of thought to my next quote here. My friend Finney and some other kids in our clique would visit my house often to play. And this is like shortly after the whole like waist high water and like school's out kind of thing. I was like kind of leaning on my last comment. You kids ain't got time to relax and play. The water is rising well above safe and normal levels. Ain't no one being allowed to come over to other people's houses as if it's a merry little jaunt. The only way I could see that happening, like, is if your recollection is slightly skewed, and in fact, like a bunch of families were like huddled in all under one roof, like for like support and protection kind of thing.
Like they're all living in the house
like
that has the highest elevation.
Exactly, yeah. Like that's the only way I could like see that kind of like really working, because like again, like the water's gone up to your waist at this point. That is flood levels. Like that is emergency flood like situation. Like it feels like this town is not taking this serious enough.
No, really isn't. My notes here, because I did some math. The average height of a 7-year-old is 44 inches.
Oh no!
So their waist would be about halfway, which is about 22 inches.
Yeah.
So that gives you the estimate of how high the water is. Then other math is the average height of an electrical outlet in a home is 12 to 16 inches.
Yeah.
And I also looked up just for cars and such, and at 6 inches of water, cars can begin to stop working because
Yeah,
water goes into the exhaust and into the air vents and such.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it feels like, again, like I said earlier with like the geography, I feel like some explanation as to like why people weren't concerned until a month passed. like uh like maybe like some elevated, like maybe the houses were up on like elevated ground, so like they had like islands basically. Or something. Just something.
It's not said, so
Yeah.
we'll have to assume that they're on this flat plane. Everyone's at the same height, and just
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is where I'd actually be siding with you guys on like a little bit more is needed to to actually like give like the weight to the stories, like emergency. Like, never mind that people are going missing. People are going missing probably because they're just getting like floated away by these flooding rainwaters.
well, I'm going to guess it comes down to the mayor, because the mayor has a house up on a hill, so he's not affected by this.
Yeah.
And then he's
Just
like, "Oh
the
well,
mayor from Jaws.
everything's fine. Go
This is
about your
fine.
work."
Everything is fine. Yeah. He's just like the mayor from Jaws. Keep them beaches open.
Yeah.
But moving on to my next one here. So I just want to make sure this. Okay, yeah. So this is pulling from. This is around the point where like, it's talking about like the weird lights and the dizzying like and like kind of the almost mesmerizing effects of the lights and the whispers and the siren call of the rain kind of thing. And then Nair discovers that his friend Dalton goes like, and his family like just walk off into the woods, but then it cuts to something else. It just cuts to him like still thinking that it's some kind of like madman going around like taking people. It seems like this section of the had a significant like sighting or clue as to like why people were disappearing. What with Dalton's and his family just like walking out of their homes and going into the woods that Nair saw, but then doesn't do anything about that to keep the momentum of the mystery and eeriness going. Just backpedals and to the trodden ground of the weird water patterns and the scratching and like people believing that it's still a madman that's taking people. I don't know. Like I guess because he's a little kid in the story, he doesn't act logically. But as a story, this really grinds away some of the creepiness and the impact of things in this. And it kind of makes it feel repetitive. Like this was a significant scene that we discover, like that people aren't being taken. They're maybe being lured out into the woods or like lured out into the rain. But then it just backpedals about the weird pattern in the water and like something calling for people. And people still think that there's a madman there. It's like there's no escalation. It just kind of backpedals.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the madman is like it could be this creature is giving false information out, so like no one really knows what's going on. Like the cops think that there's some madman taking people, but there's actually just like this creature that's taking people, and then there's whispers.
Yeah.
Sometimes there isn't. It's.
I think
the monsters.
I think the problem with that is
the author is.
Yeah, I think the problem is like because it's kind of like synopsized. Like we're not and like I'm fine with like not having all the answers, but like there's a point where like not having like the story isn't giving us enough of not all the answers to really like even like for it to even like seemingly make sense even by the end. Like it feels like there should have been like some more like maybe some even afterthought like stuff, or like while the person's like recollecting this and writing it down, they've done some research, like some they found some records of that timeline, where people were like saying like over that month, like the newspaper or like even like a broadcast was like saying that like a madman was loose or something like that, and so like there was some misinformation kind of there. But yeah, it just seems like just by just having like a recollection, it kind of steals away some of the mystery angle to the story by just having it like kind of out of context kind of stuff. I don't know.
Because you don't know how much of this is just false memory as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
That he doesn't recall everything, but some stuff he recalls quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the recollection is out of context creepy, but like on the end of out of context creepy, where it's also kind of like grinding and like just kind of not going anywhere. But yeah. And then I have my next quote and comments and such. They were announced missing, and to this day, I'm still not sure what happened to them, or Finney, along with all the other children. I'd also like to point out, not just children were missing, apparently, whole families. But apparently this kid just cares about the children. Yeah. And then continuing, I am certain of one thing. There was something in the water. And then also like with the evidence that like he had like a hand like imprint on his arm, on his ankle, that like was dragging him in the water. And so I feel like this story could go either aliens, or like you said, Mikey, like a cult who summons something in the woods, and then the summoning didn't work out well. It could also even be like the fae folk, like fairy folk, depending where you place this story. I feel like the story could use some, like even like a made up town in this state or this province, or like insert location, like insert geographical location, so that you kind of have like a rooting in reality as to what this thing could be. Because with like the fairy folk and stuff like that, it could be like some fairy creatures, like maybe some seraphs are in the sky causing the rains, and then there's some undines or marrow, or other water fairy creatures, or even like earth spirits, slinking out of the earth, the woods, or even the water themselves, and just kind of trying to siren away and grab children from their homes. And even with like the alien angle, it's basically the same kind of scenario. Like I felt like there was like it was hinting in the story that there was something physically like hiding in the water, in the water level, like in the rising water, that was trying to get people. But like we never really, it's just kind of alluded to super vaguely. And there's so many other things in the story that kind of like muddy that revelation, until the very end, where we get the handprint, and then okay, so there was something in the water. It wasn't just some weird like rain phenomena, or like some weirdo, or people were just leaving and getting stuck in the water.
It was said repeatedly throughout the story that they were seeing shit in the water.
They were seeing patterns in the water, like and
like something was moving under the water.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's also like kids saying that, like they could be like false memory kind of thing, and then the ending like gives us a 100% that there was something in the water. But I don't know, like what's muddying it for me is like the fact that they keep like relying on this madman narrative, that it just kind of hurt the final revelation a little bit.
The madman narrative is there for the humans to try to come up with a logical situation that's happening.
I guess. Yeah.
Because what else would be taking kids? Obviously, it's some crazy guy. Because what else would be doing that? So they're taking that as an assumption just to try to make this all make sense. And then if they can find a madman that took everybody, great. If they can't, well, I'll guess do something else.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. I do like the core premise of the events going on. I just wish it was more described about the circumstances. Again, like having the town kind of described a little bit more than just the town I lived in.
Even
Or
if they
like
just said the state or province that they're in, Just
yeah,
something.
exactly. It would help a lot more with like rooting it somewhere, because then you can like look something up. It could use a bit more work refining the narrative of it. You could even keep the childhood perspective, and like I said earlier, have him now, like as he's like jotting this stuff down and recollecting it, speculate some things like as an adult as to like what he thought when he was recollecting. Similarly, the emergency of the flooding isn't as pronounced as it really should be, given the rising water levels. People should have left well before a month was up in the story. And maybe that was also like a percentage of why some of the missing people like they were just leaving early. Like maybe the Daltons are fine, or maybe
but they left
Dalton.
without any of their shit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they were definitely like being sirened off or something.
But that's what you do in an emergency. There's a wildfire going. You leave without taking your stuff. You got a flood. You leave without taking your stuff because you got to get out of there.
Yeah, that's true. It did seem like though that the story was kind of like giving it that they were like just being sirened off into the woods a little bit, or at least that's what the character seemed to be like projecting on the story. But yeah, again, it's also an unreliable narrator technically because he's recollecting childhood memories, which
he specifically says he doesn't remember well.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like if that one aspect of this was changed, him saying like, "There's not much I remember about my childhood, but I remember this entire event like it was yesterday," then you can take everything said
at
as
face
true.
value. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the other thing I have here? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's yeah. So like going back to the emergency thing. Even if like Nair didn't realize it at the time, like as a kid, again, like he could have looked up reports, like in the now as he's like recollecting, and discover that there were some circumstances that delayed the evac. Like maybe they were really isolated. They're surrounded. Their town is apparently surrounded by forests. So maybe there's like only like one road that goes in that comes in and out of town.
There's a flood that deep, they're not going to be driving shit into it.
Well, exactly. Or there is obstacles and stuff like that, or bureaucratic BS that happens with like emergencies all the time. Like we've in the past couple of years, I've seen articles from like floods down in the states, in the southern states, where like and like they're trying to get people out of those flooded areas, and it lasts almost a week and a half. So like there could have been even, or sometimes I think even like longer than that. So like yeah, there could be some kind of bureaucratic or just obstacles in the way that prevented people from leaving. Hell, it could even be as easy as people not wanting to leave while people were missing, or just being plain stubborn, because people by nature are stubborn assholes that will not leave their homes even in an emergency, or like they have to be pried away from their homes during an emergency because they're in such denial. Like that happens in real life. So, but again, like I just wish some of that would have been like brought up, or like not just us speculating it after the fact. Like I wish there had been a little bit more development of the story to explain some like why it took so long for these people to evacuate their homes when the water had risen to their waist at some point within that month.
To a child's waist.
And it took them, up to a child's waist, and it was still rising. Like,
oh yeah, I'm not saying that's an insignificant amount of water. I'm just saying it's not up to an adult's waist.
Yeah, but like Mikey pointed out, all the like power would be out into those homes. So, or else suddenly there's just a lot of people just getting electrocuted. But yeah, that's my main actual thoughts. Just kind of the emergency was not quite like the reaction to the evac and stuff, the evacuation wasn't given the right amount of urgency, or there was no explanation as to why it took a month for that delay. So
It was like the most chilled disaster ever.
right? Yeah, like he even says it's like, oh man, like school's out on occasion because it's like up to your ankle at the water,
And it's
and
only sometimes out.
yeah,
It's
and
not
like it was the water was up to up to my waist, but like Jimmy and Dalton and Finney would come over and sleep over. Like they just they just come over like down the
Come
neighborhood.
over, it's fine.
Yeah, just skipping down the rain or down the water, like as if it's nothing. It's like no, that's not. Yeah. And I do like the idea of the creature, like, and the ideas that like it kind of like generates by its actions and by its nature. But yeah, there's just some muddying from like the rest of the story that kind of irked me a bit. But that's my actual thoughts. Mikey, the East End Survival, what do you got?
All right, let's see here. We were going through our escape route that went through higher terrain within the woods, and we took a dirt road. As we plodded through the water, we met with Finney and his mother. That dirt road is technically a mud road.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not necessarily the best choice of road, although
It might have been better to actually just go through the trees, because the trees' roots would actually help for like keeping the ground like from eroding that fast.
hmm.
I think it's more of a case of where the road goes. If you just walk randomly in the forest, you might get lost. But if you follow the road,
Yeah.
you know where you're going.
Yeah, that's true, but still, like walking through mud, it would take them a really long time to get along that road.
But they would get there.
That's true.
Compared to not. But yeah, I see what you're saying. 100%.
All right, my next quote here. We began to hear faint whispers again, and felt soothingly relaxed. The feeling was ominous.
It could be ominously relaxing.
Because the kid's realizing I should not be relaxed right now, but I am.
But
Maybe
it
that's
feels
why
so soothing.
Maybe that's why the entire like epidemic of this happening is so chill, because the entire town is lulled into a full sense of security by this creature. It's like, this is
Yeah,
fine.
it could be like a Pennywise. It could be a Pennywise in like the town of Derry situation, where like Pennywise had put like the entire town of Derry into like basically a field of influence, where people would just look away when Pennywise ate people.
That would explain the lackluster like fear to all the flooding and shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just odd that it was feeling of soothing and relaxedness being ominous. Just seemed weird.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and the next quote here is about him talking about the bruising. So, upon inspecting it, we found that a skinny, bony handprint was left on it. So, up until this point in the story, I was expecting like a large fish or even a crocodile in the water.
You went pure mundane.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I got something after your words to make this even more mundane. But continue. Sorry.
But the whole part about the skinny bony hand, it made me actually envision a fish with arms.
Yeah,
So,
we call that a mermaid, Mikey. or
well,
like I said, a marrow, which is a basically like a freshwater, like a creepy, like fishy, more fishy, but like freshwater mermaid.
okay, well, what I envisioned was more like from the video game Sashimi, which basically is a muscle-bound fish with some seriously swole arms.
Damn it!
It says it has like skeleton-y fingers, like thin fingers. Why would you go swole?
Okay, well, I went that way, but in the video game Sashimi, uh, when you battle the bosses, they have second forms, which are more grotesque and evil looking. So this is just the second form of the fish guy. So his arms are bony instead of swole.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You know what? You know what? I think it was actually like to make it even more mundane.
What's that?
It was Finny. Because Finny went underwater too, so like he just like grabbed his buddy's ankle to try like for support, but then he got kicked off and like went following down in the water,
Sunk through like this freaking
sinkhole or whatever,
like almost
Or
like
the crocodile.
or something.
Yeah.
Like a really soft patch in the mud, and it just swallowed him whole.
Well, like they said, it was like a sinkhole. Like I don't know, like if you're familiar gamer, but from what I've heard from my buddies that live in Kentucky and even like Savannah and stuff like that, sinkholes like they are just like they're just like if there's a cavity under the ground and there's enough erosion on the surface, they just cave in.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that shit happens all the time, especially in like water air in like regions that like are flooded or even like swamp lands and stuff. So again, it would really help if we knew like where in the world is this town?
Carmen San Diego.
Yes, exactly.
Where in the world is
this town?
Yeah.
Sorry, this town. Yeah.
All right. So continuing on, the entire time I was reading this, I thought Finney was going to be either evil or one of the kids that disappeared.
Yeah, right?
And it's probably just because of the way the story begins with, so in my childhood town, I had a good friend named Finney. And that's the start of his tale.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's either that
But
kid was
Finney
going to die
really-
or that kid is going to be evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Finney really didn't contribute a lot to this story.
Oh,
Outside of
honestly, like
get
his
taken at
friend
the very end.
Dalton, which bailed into the forest with his family, was more impactful to the what happened in the story than Finney just disappearing.
Yeah, like Finney's mentioned at the beginning. He's mentioned alongside Dalton, but then Dalton gets like more airtime than Finney.
Oh yeah, he's got top billing for sure.
Like Dalton's isn't Dalton the one that like sees the thing out in the out the side of the window? Like, isn't he the one at the window?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah, so like it really should have been like, this is my friend. I had this town. I lived in this town when I was 7, and one of my best friends there was Dalton.
Yeah,
we didn't even need Finney.
Actually, no, Dalton was only mentioned twice.
Yeah, but he had a lot more like. Okay, who was the guy at the window then? Was that Finney?
I don't know. Hang on.
It was when they were all sleeping over.
He looked out, narrated, saw the flood streets, strange patterns in the water again.
Bryce was the one that looked outside.
Oh.
Yeah, some random like again, like Finney should like honestly it should have been Finney looking out the window, because like Finney is the one that's like apparently vital to the story. To be mentioned right at the beginning, like it's not like it's like a red herring.
Yeah, like him and Nair should be doing most of the story.
Yeah,
Of
not
how much
like
focus is on them.
but yeah, exactly. But then we get introduced to Bryce, who looks out the window and is the one that sees the weirdness. And then Dalton, his neighbor, goes missing with his family in the woods. Like, what?
It's like his friends all have one job.
Yeah.
Bryce saw the thing. Dalton left with his family, and Finney died right beside him.
Along with everybody else who went missing, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an indiscrepancy there on like character role distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last actual thought here is, why are there no boats, canoes, kayaks, like flotation devices of any
Rafts.
kind?
Who says there isn't?
Yeah.
How would they be getting around if there weren't?
It seemed like they were walking everywhere. They're just trudging through the water.
Oh, because they were walking to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, another thing that would have like increased the direness of the emergency is if we had seen like watercraft of some kind, or even like makeshift rafts. And also, like, again, to look at the geography, like, is there a river nearby? Is there, like, we get reference to like ponds and stuff, but like, how integral are they to the town? Like, I would like to know a little bit more about this town before I gave a shit about a month-long flooding that happened.
I'm not sure if there was actually enough water for like a boat to be used, because it's only really like knee high to us.
Yeah. Again, yeah, it's true. Yeah, I keep thinking of the waist high as like waist high to like an adult. I keep forgetting that that Nair is a child in the situation.
To be honest, until the recording, I thought it was chest high to me. Like that was how much water there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, even to knee, that's still sort of enough for a boat.
Yeah, that would actually depending on the kind of boat. Yeah, that'd be enough for a boat, or even like a raft of some kind to float down like a street.
Yeah, then some sort of flotation device would have been nice.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right.
Cool. About all I have left is just I like that the monster wasn't fully shown.
Yeah.
It's done in a way that I personally don't need to see the monster. The handprint on Nair's ankle was enough for me.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
That's about it.
Oh, sorry. I think I may have. I'll delete myself my track, or I'll silence my track at that point, because I did like, what, gamer?
It's fine. It came in at a fine time. It was alright.
Okay.
Yeah. Just I don't think I really need to see the monster, because it's alright the way it is. Because as you say, the mind makes up way worse than what it's actually going to be.
Yeah, like it could have been some kind of like horrid corpse creature, some kind of like manfish thing. It could have been an alien. It could have been the Fae. It could have been
Finney.
It could have been Finney. Hence why his name is Finney and not Vinny.
Oh, because he's a fisherman.
Yeah, exactly. I kept thinking that he was either going to be like I thought there was going to be some importance to why he had such a weird name, because you don't know how many times I wanted to keep saying Vinny, like with a V and not Finney.
Oh, I know, because you've been constantly stopping yourself from saying that this entire recording.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
But even while like reading it, it's like, that's such a weird name to pronounce. Like, there's got to be a reason for it, but no, there really wasn't.
Could have been like my friend Finney. Oh, we called him Finney because he loved swimming. He was the best swimmer out of all of us.
Exactly, and then at the end, like have Finney like go in the water, like fall in the water first, and then transform into the fish man under the water and try and grab his friend and drag him away.
You don't even need to see the transformation; just him getting "quote unquote" pulled under, and then Nair getting pulled under. You could assume that he got pulled. That he went into the water, transformed.
Yeah, like you have like the mark on my ankle was like a little like a kid's ankle, like a kid's hand, like maybe like Finney was grabbing him. But the weird thing was there was also these like weird webbing feel like prints between the fingers, like or
have it so like Finney always wears a ring, and there's like a ring print in there with the webbing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so it turned out that like Finney was some kind of like changeling. Like maybe his parents weren't even like weird or anything like that. They just like Finney got replaced by a fey creature at birth, and was actually like a fairy creature or like a water spirit from the get go. Like
Stork dropped him off at the wrong door, basically.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
where there's a fey creature with a human baby.
No, like in changelings, like that's actually what they do. They kidnap human children and replace them with one of their own, so that they can learn a little bit about human society and then also like torment the child.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that would be an interesting like take if it was developed that way. Yeah,
because as you said, there's so much focus on Finney and he does nothing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on to final thoughts, which I'm actually going to start first off. So yeah, I think this has a decent idea for a story. It just needs to be developed more. From what I've gleaned from Havoc 98's user page on creepypasta.wiki, it seems like when they wrote this, they were like they were either in or just coming out of high school. And they were a huge fan of creepypasta and had finally gotten the courage up to write their own like creepypasta and throw it out there in the world. So I give that props, like, because this has a really good, decent idea. It's a good first step for a creepy story, but I feel it shouldn't stop in its current form. Like it really, like, unfortunately it got posted like 2013. So it's been like 6 years since it got posted, but I mean, it's never too late to go back to a story you've written and like develop it further and re-edit it and post it out there. So if Havoc 98 is listening to us, like, don't let your dreams be dreams.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
But yeah, like I feel like this really could be like a stronger story if it was edited a little bit more and developed a little bit more. Like give us more about the town before it is like drenched in water for a month. Develop the emergency that happens, like why it takes so long for people to react to it. Like, are people just stubborn, don't want to leave because other people have gone missing? Are there obstacles in the way? Kind of stuff with that.
Straight up mention that he noticed that the parents weren't, or they were saying like, we should really be more concerned about this than we are, but we're not. Like,
yeah.
So they're realizing that there's some shenanigans going on.
Yeah, like there could be some kind of glamour over the town if it's fairy folk related. If it's aliens, it could just be them like mind controlling people or subliminal suggestion kind of like thing with psychic powers. If it's a cult, if it's the cult idea, it might just be some kind of like if it's weird colors in the sky, I'll instantly go to like the color out of space, which creates has the effect on local people around it. By basically giving them a form of lethargy. So like maybe that's why everybody's so like chill, is that it's just the effect of the creature or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like maybe develop Finney a little bit more as more than just like he's the character's best friend, even though he barely shows up until the very end of the story and then gets whacked basically. Like give him more involvement. Like you can still have Bryce and Dalton there, but like have Finney there too, like in the scene.
Yeah, Finney's entire purpose was so narrator can say my best friend got killed beside me.
Yeah,
that was his entire purpose: is death.
Yeah. Pretty much. So yeah, I feel like that's basically my opinion on it. Like, it's a good core story. It's a first draft, and I feel like it needs to be edited and developed more to really like bring it above that line. At the moment, I'm willing to give it a partial recommendation, just for the core premise and like the setup there, but it's not enough to like. I'm not like if I was to give it a percentage, it'd be like 40% recommendation. Just because of the idea. Like, the idea is solid. The execution's a little shaky. It needs to be improved. So that's my final thoughts and recommendation stuff. Yeah, Mikey.
All right. While this was interesting, and that's where it's good, its theme from, the flooding, like we've stated, seems unrealistic based on how the adults act, and that they seem more worried about the missing children than the fact that the town is flooding. And I mean, they're equally important.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, that could also there could be a conflict within the town hall of like that's why people are like why they haven't left after a month is that like there's this argument within the town of like we should stay and try and look for our missing people. It's like, no, we got to get out of here, the waters are rising. It's like, fuck you, my cousin's gone missing, I'm gonna find him, kind of thing. Like yeah, like just I know the kid's from his perspective he's a 7-year-old, but I feel like they're like kids are attentive listeners. Like they are observant listeners. So like, and he's recollecting this as an adult, so he could have brought up some things, based on that. Like, oh, like I like at the time I never really put much stock into this, but now that I'm recalling it, yeah, there was some kind of struggle between the town. Like there was a divide in the town of like, should we stay or should we go now?
Did say that there was a meeting at like the town hall or like the courthouse or something.
Yeah,
where like all the parents went and the kids were asking what they're talking about, and they just said like some very boring grown up stuff, or like you're too young to understand.
yeah, but I feel like you could have at least even had like the kids in there. Like you could have like taken that meeting and then had the kids in there and then like had the character recollect that stuff. Like hindsight is 20/20 kind of thing, right? Like he didn't react or anything like that at the time, but like now that he's like recalling is like, oh shit, there's a ton of stuff there that had a lot of more significance now that I'm adult, like remembering this stuff.
Also, all this stuff is only through the eyes of the child, so he's not gonna notice all this other stuff that we want him to notice because it's through a child's eyes.
Yeah, that's true.
And then just continuing on, like the whole monster could really just be a crocodile that's from the local pond, and it's been eating children because they're easy prey when they're in the water.
Sure.
Sure.
If it's in the southern states or Asia or Africa or wherever this town is, if only we were given like some kind of like hint. I imagine it's somewhere in North America or like maybe it could, but though because the way the dialogue is, or the way the writing is, it doesn't
Color
really
is
like
without a U.
A what?
Color is spelt without a U.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it may not. It's probably North America, like the states, because any like there would have been some writing, some hints in the writing to if it was like in the UK or something like that, or elsewhere. So yeah, it feels like probably somewhere in North America.
What are you talking about?
God, I hate you.
It's fine. Although now that you say it, I could see this happening in elsewhere. Couldn't you?
Just move on.
I did it. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a partial recommendation, like review cultist. Again, on the low end, because I mean it has potential, but there's so many glaring things that adults should have done, and
yeah,
and there's no explanation given because it's through the eyes of a kid, but at the same time it's like, well, we want more. So
yeah.
So that's it.
All right, gamer.
For me, it's gonna be partial as well, honestly. I feel like the story would have been better through the eyes of like a teenager, so someone who would be paying more attention to what's happening, and we'd be able to get more information. And because it's not so long ago, it would be more recent information, so it would be more accurate. Because yeah, all the stuff that we're complaining about could just be through false memories. Like, it's an unreliable narrator, as you said.
Yeah.
But that being said, I like that the creature isn't shown. Although, like, everything that you guys have been saying is, I'm honestly I just be parroting.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you guys in a lot of this.
Yeah, I like the idea of like the creature coming out of the rain, like, or this rain like either being some weird like freak of nature thing, or like it's caused by some creature or faction, and that's how they hunt, is they flood an area and then they go hunting.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like that would be a good, but like we need to know I'd like to know a little bit more about the circumstances. Like, we don't even need to see the monster
situation.
Yeah, like even like have some like not even have to be like concrete, like, oh, this is like thousands of years ago, the settlers here fucked over some fairy creatures and now they're all pissed. Like, I don't need that kind of stuff, but like just like little hints of like of a greater of just what's going on a little bit more than just like the weird disturbances in the water. And the ending, like when he gets pulled out of the water and like he's got like a hand mark on his hand on his ankle, I thought that was a really good scene, like like as like a revelation. It's like, shit, there was actually something like monstrous in the water kind of thing.
It's just Finney.
Finney just grabbing on for dear life as he was like getting pulled away by the current.
Yeah.
And then fucking Nair just like kicked him in the face with his ankle, with his foot, and like has to go down.
It's either I survive or neither of us survive. Sorry, Finney. No. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just how things go. Super mundane.
Totally. Yeah, even the colors, the colorful lightning, totally mundane. It was lightning going.
Yeah, it's just lightning,
rainbow.
like you said.
That's
It's just different types of lightning. Like, yeah, it's just some kind of there's okay. The different colors are because is the lightning reacting to chemicals in the air, which cause the weird like weather circumstances. And because there's chemicals in the air that like it's coming down in the rain, and so it's causing hallucinations like the whispers and the scratching at the walls.
Yeah,
it's actually kind of I could totally buy that. Like like if that was like at the end, like after this character like does some research and discovers that like a local plant like had a leak and like there was it had some issues with like water and some of that, or like there was I could totally see that actually be the cause.
That'd be an interesting twist.
Yeah, that would be actually
really
really
is
good.
no twist, honestly.
Yeah, it's just there was a hand.
Yeah, well, for you, Cultus, you said that there was kind of a twist because you weren't sure that there was anything under the water, but then there was confirmed as evidence at the end.
Let me clarify. I knew that I got the twist at the end where like there was some monster in the water. But I felt that the
it's not meant to be a twist, is what I'm getting at.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, fair.
Because it said from the get-go that there was something in the water.
Yeah, but the thing that was kept muddying the story for me was that the characters kept basically backpedaling on the same stuff. Like, even though there were hints in the story that should have had them like investigate, but because they're 7-year-old, they didn't investigate further, or they didn't tell anybody that like, oh, Dalton and his family just like walked out of their house and like went into the woods. Like, I feel like saying that actually would have made more sense as to like the police officers to go investigate that, and then that's why like suddenly there's that that scene at the end where like his dad and like the squad go off to go find like the location. Like, that would actually add if there was just a segueing scene where he tells his family, like his mom and dad, or tells his mom that he saw Dalton and his family go off into the woods, like that would help kind of structure those two scenes together in a stronger bond.
I feel like he would say that as well because.
But he didn't.
I don't know about you, but
yeah, sorry.
I don't know about you, but like, as far as I could tell, Dalton is one of his closest friends, and if I just see him just go with his family,
I'd be concerned.
Yeah,
I'd be
like,
rather
where's
concerned.
Dalton going?
Yeah,
kids are inquisitive. There's a reason that there's a character in Looney Tunes that just goes, "Why?
Yeah, I know exactly. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Like again, Niece Cultist does it all the time. Like, why are those weird figures in the dark out in the woods? And then we just tell her to move along.
It's fine.
But no, yeah, like if we'd had that part, like again, like Dalton, Bryce, and Finney seemed to be his closest friends. Dalton and Dalton seemed to be his closest friend, like literally because he was like a neighbor. So I'm surprised that he did. Again, that this wasn't all about Dalton, or that Finney wasn't a neighbor. But maybe he was. He was just on the other side. But we didn't get that. But like we were saying, it feels like there's stuff missing that needs to be in the story to like have it, like to give it more connective tissues together, like to make it more concrete and more like more cohesive. But because like I was saying, like he saw Dalton and like he should have gone and like seen his like told his mom, but then it seemed like I think like right after that, like after he sees Dalton and stuff like that, he looks out in the water and sees that there's a weird disturbance in the water, and he starts hearing the whisperings again, and so he closes the window. Like, yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, as I've been trying to say, throughout the entire story, I knew that there was something in the water from the get-go because it was seen, it was heard because it would like scratch on the glass and shit and call to them. So there's clearly something there. So the whole quote unquote twist wasn't there for me because I knew that there was a monster there the whole time.
Yeah.
The only twist is just it's not just a hallucination or anything. There is something actually there. That being said, I think the biggest problem with the story is how non-committal it is.
Yeah.
Where it's just like it's kind of like this and sort of kind of like that.
And there's definitely signs of like padding or like the ums and uhs and also like padding. Like I said, like I've been repeating myself and being repetitive myself. It seems like the story like likes to keep repeating information in slightly different ways, but it's like enough that it's like, all right, that's just repetition. Like you're just kind of saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. So overall, the concept of the story I would recommend, but the execution I would not. As you guys have also said, because it's the way I see it too.
Because we all agree that the story had a cool idea, but it's like a first draft. All right. Well, if there's nothing else to be said, that has been this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave it in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can send us tweets and get a hold of us on Twitter at Mikey's at E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name's too damn long. And you can also get a hold of me at Review Cultist. If you'd like to send us emails, you can go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss in the show. Hey, you know what? You guys can also do that on our Twitters. Not just talk to us or comment on us. You can send us SCPs, creepypastas, creepy videos, like Slender Vlog stuff or ARG series, just the creepy kind of stuff that's on the internet that revolves around creepypasta. And if you'd like to help support the show, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To the patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. for the listeners and the authors of these stories and our show, thank you guys immensely because, well, without your listenership, we really wouldn't have much of a show. And for the authors, we really wouldn't have much of a show without your stories. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.